Have you ever struggled to blend different images to create a really cool character? Today I'm going to show you how you can do that too, and we'll create together a badass Santa Claus. I needed a body for my Santa Claus and I was really happy when I found this picture. With the pen tool I selected what I needed, and because I want him to be Santa Claus, I want to have his suit red, so I selected the parts that I want to make them red. After the selection I added a hue and saturation, clip it inside and made it red, and set the blending mode to multiply. Then after hours of search I found this picture with Santa Claus, which I found it to be perfect for what I wanted. And because I really didn't like the glasses, I needed them to go away. So for that I took the polygonal lasso tool and selected the glasses, and then later on I will replace them with something much cooler. After the selection, create a new layer, right click and content aware fill, and then hit OK, and then with the clone stamp tool I refine the things that content aware fill didn't do that well. And then I found this really cool beard and I placed it underneath, and then with the hue saturation I matched the colors. Then I added some hair on top of his original hair. So this is what we have so far, our badass Santa. And because I needed him to hold an axe in this hand, it didn't really look that well with the fingers like that, so I need to find another hand. Then I went to Envato and I found this hand, and I really loved the position, and I imported it as a PNG into my Photoshop. I placed it where I want it to be. With the clone stamp tool I created another layer, and with a lot of time and patience I try to get rid of this area with this hand. Now the hand looks much better. I added a mask and I copied a part of the old hand, and now we can add an axe into that hand. So this is the axe that I added, and now, as I said, we have a really badass Santa Claus. Talking about glasses and Envato, I found these really cool steampunk glasses and I had to use them. So I placed them on top of his eyes and added a small shadow underneath on a layer set to multiply. On his chest I added this sticker that I created, combining a vector file that I have from FreePic, and I just wrote Naughty Santa and I place it on his chest, added a mask and also a bit of blend diff, so double click on the layer, hold alt and drag this slider to blend better with the background. Then I wanted to modify the position of his right leg because I really didn't like it, so I copied this leg and hide the other one. Then I went to edit and puppet warp that leg to match the position that I wanted. So that was the angle that I needed, and then I added this rope around his chest to make it look like he's holding a sack into his back. So I did the same thing with the puppet warp. I place it where I want it to be, and then with the puppet warp I arrange it to have the angles and the position that I wanted. Then with the layer set to multiply I drew some shadows underneath this rope. Then I added a levels inside the rope and made it darker, and with the brush and the black color I painted a bit to make it more real. After hours of searching I found this really cool picture and I used this sack, so I placed it on his back and just changed the colors to have the color that I wanted. And then with some blood brushes I just added up some blood on his face, and then the rest was just to apply some changes to the overall lighting and colors, so everything should blend better together. So I added an exposure, made him darker, added a shadow underneath the beard, and on the head I made it darker using exposure and levels, and here on the glasses, on the goggles, I also changed the colors and added a crack on them. So here comes Santa Claus into our design. So first thing, to match him with the rest of my image, because everything is really cold, first thing that I did was to add this solid color adjustment layer, and I set the blending mode to color. Then with color balance I modified a bit the cyans and blues, and with exposure I made him darker on our left side and brighter on our right side because we have the light that comes from our right side. Talking about shadows, I always use multiply for shadows, so on his face I added a small shadow I drew with a gray color on his face and set the blending mode to multiply. I painted with a bluish gray color on his face and set the blending mode to color. Then here I wanted to draw myself a cut on the sack, so I created a new layer and I just started to draw that part. And then I found these tear apart jeans and I really love this area and I use it on the bottom area of the sack. So I place it here and added a mask, and then with hue and saturation and levels I modify the colors and added some shadows to match the rest of the sack. And I found this really cute teddy bear in a suitcase and I use it over there. So I place it where I wanted the teddy bear to be, added a mask and change the colors to match the colors of the sack, and underneath I added a shadow, as always set to multiply. Then I created a new layer and I tried to draw some snow on top of the teddy bear, and I spent some time to make it like the snow is falling on the teddy bear also. After I finished with the snow, it was the moment to add some blood on the blade, so with some blood brushes I added this blood and I made the blood darker to make it more realistic. Now for the highlights, I tried a new method that I never tried before, and I just created a new layer and I took a brush and I didn't set the blending mode of the highlights on anything like linear dodge or color dodge or overlay, and I just painted with a color that it's similar with the snow, bluish white gray color. So I just started to paint around where I thought that the highlights should be. To make it look better, I added a camera raw filter after I pressed Ctrl-Alt-Shift-I to create a screenshot, right click, convert it to a smart object, then go to filter, camera raw filter. Those are my settings in the basic, on the detail and on the effects, and then hit OK. Then another cool thing that I did to add some depth of field, I went to filter and here I choose neural filters. Then go to depth blur, click on it, and then you can play around with the focal distance, with the focal range and the strength of the blur. You can also add haze, and when you are satisfied with the result, just hit OK. If you love this video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and don't go away because I have a really interesting story for you. In a world ravaged by a catastrophic event, there was still hope. The apocalyptic Santa Claus, dressed in red and white and armed with a gun and an axe, he faced realities of the post-apocalyptic world in search of survivors. He brought joy and hope to those who had lost so much. He left behind small gifts and provisions to help them make it through another difficult year. So if you're struggling to survive too, keep an eye for a ragged old man in red and white suit. He just might be the apocalyptic Santa, bringing a little bit of cheer to a world that desperately needs it. Merry Christmas, everyone!